We were talking earlier about what you survived. Some tales more harrowing than others. But we were talking a little bit about the roof caving in of that nightclub in the Dominican Republic. And it was just one of those things where I'm like, my gosh, I don't know how anybody inside survived. But there were, apparently 100+ people that are injured. And I hope they all pull out okay from it. But, yeah, that was just one of those things where that thing comes down. And it probably was worse in other places because when I looked at the footage of it, it looked like you had the AC units, which you've seen how big those are that were on the roof. Yeah, I mean, if that came down on top of you, probably not making it out there, but maybe another part where it didn't have something on top of the roof that came down on top of you, but just kind of crazy. That's just one of those things. And you think about all these now, unfortunately, there's just too many of them where somebody is, started popping off shots in a public square or just whatever that, I figured a lot of people would have stories, and a lot of people did. But, every now and then something like that happens. It's kind of interesting, these survivor stories on that. We've had so many people that have called us about, 9/11. That happened, that, they were in the World Trade Center, or they were supposed to be, and just something weird happened that they didn't make it on time, or they were late, or they left early to get a coffee, and, what a difference that is. I mean, that'd be quite a feeling, though, wouldn't it?
It would be horrifying.
Yeah, if you'd survived anything like that, a lot of us could say natural disasters. Some of us have been through hurricanes. The story of my one buddy talking about, he went through Hurricane Andrew, and he and his mom, when he was a kid, were huddled down in a closet in the middle of their house. And he said a 2x4 came shooting through that closet. It went between he and his mom's head.
Whoa.
Which that would get your attention, wouldn't it?
It came in one side of the closet, came out the other, flying.
Yeah, just that projectile.
Someone escaping a serial killer. That's got to be crazy. Finding out who they were. That's horrifying.
Totally.
Yeah. And got one here from Arian who said, yeah, my mom was a bank teller in the early 80s at this bank in Palm Beach County. And there was this customer, Christopher Wilder was his name, and they ended up becoming friendly, and he would often hang out with her and her friends. She said he was quiet, seemingly normal. He had a lot of money, wasn't super flashy with it. And one day he came into her bank and he invited her on a trip to go to Daytona Beach. And she was already dating my dad at the time, so she politely declined, but had no idea that Christopher Wilder was a serial killer.
Prolific serial killer who killed people up and down the state of Florida. He met his demise trying to leave New York and got killed. And it's annoying because who knows what other bodies he might have been responsible for, that he went on a big old frenzy of a murder spree.
Wow.
Over weeks, to a point where my Aunt Ann used to work at this. It wasn't Sunfest. They called it, I think, American Heritage or some other event that was like a Sunfest. Mm-hmm. And I remember Christopher Wilder was murdering women up and down the coast, and my mom thought Aunt Ann was a victim because she was 3 hours late from working her shift.
Oh my God!
And that's all I heard about. It's Christopher Wilder. He got her. He got her. She's dead.
Not traumatizing at all for a young jaybird.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I mean, Christopher Wilder invites you on a trip. He's gonna kill you.
He came from a shit ton of money. He was a rich boy.
Yeah, that's what she was saying, and that's why the connection was made at the bank.
His MO was he would go into malls and he would target young girls. We're talking young teenage girls, and he'd have a camera and say, I am a modeling agent, or I work for a modeling agency. Let me take your pictures. I'm going to sign you to a contract. I've got money. He'd lure them and then kill them.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, so who knows what would happen if my mom would have taken that trip. Probably wouldn't have ended well. We've got Aaron on here from New York. And Aaron, you survived a house fire?
That's correct. So from 2019 to 2022, I was renting a townhouse in Queens with a couple roommates. One of those roommates was doing a bunch of drugs and convinced himself that I was a spy who was out to get him, and decided to plug his car battery into the wall via some contraption that he created and burned down the house.
Oh,
Myself,
my.
along with my other roommates, woke up to flames surrounding us. We were on the second floor. The entire staircase had collapsed. The entire place was filled with smoke. How we made it out and down those stairs, especially considering they'd collapsed, is beyond me. On top of that, my father died in 9/11.
Wow.
So, I mean, this was extremely difficult for me to get out of. I was in a full-on panic attack. And I have no doubt in my mind, it's like something came over me and I just went into autopilot.
Mm-hmm.
I have no doubt in my mind that he got me out of there.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what's really interesting. Talking to people like yourself, Aaron, that has kind of gone through this, is how you do. You always wonder how you might do in one of those situations. And the human condition's fascinating because it is. I've talked to so many people, and it's like they go into some other gear they didn't even know they had. And they do hero kind of things that they didn't even know they had in them, which is kind of crazy. Would you say that was kind of how it felt for you, Aaron?
Oh, definitely. And one of my other roommates was older, and he was on a pacemaker, and he fell. And how he made it out, too. Again, I truly believe my father was watching out for me from above. He was like, there's no way that my son and his roommates are going to suffer a similar fate to what I did. And I fully believe that he was watching out and got us out of there. Because
That's beautiful.
That was,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
That's pretty crazy stuff.
That is.
Yeah.
Thank goodness your dad was your guardian angel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, somebody texted in who was in that Great White concert fire where 90 people died, including the guitar player.
Yes.
Those are the ones that are really scary, and that's very similar to the roof caving in the Dominican, where you're just in with a group of people, and all of a sudden something happens, and the panic that happens, but there are small exits, and there are too many people to get through it. That, to me, would be such a terrifying situation.
The one that messes with my head is the Surfside, the building.
Oh
that
my gosh,
collapsed.
yeah.
That just, I mean, that footage is so eerie and
Yeah.
creepy.
Mm-hmm.
This is how we do. It's the KBJ Show.